This podcast contains graphic descriptions, explicit language, and audio clips that may be disturbing to some audiences. Listener discretion is advised. I often find myself wondering how exhausting it would be to live any type of double life. If you're like me in any fashion, the life you have right now is complicated, busy, and filled to the brim with enough events to keep you occupied. However, time and time again I read a story, see a news report, or watch a show about an individual who appeared to be one person on the outside, but was someone else in the shadows. In a fictional sense, you look at a popular TV show like Dexter, a man who by day was helping solve crimes for Miami Metro, and then he would moonlight as a serial killer who only murdered people, according to a certain code. This idea seems so outlandish for many reasons. But hey, I'm a fan of that show. But just think about it. How truly exhausting would that be, to be two different people? It seems fairly unrealistic, but unfortunately, we know that people can actually maintain these facades. Look at someone like Dennis Rader or Gary Ridgway. Both men appeared to be one person to their loved ones, but to their victims, they were an entirely different person. Some would say that they were their true self with the latter. There are many more people who have lived double lives to a less extreme extent, but more often than not, it seems as though that these charlatans are found out. You're listening to The Apex and the Abyss, and this is the story of the Craigslist Killer.
More now in developing news in the Craigslist murder. The man on your left is under arrest in the case. Police say he's the same man pictured on your right in those hotel surveillance photos. That suspect in custody is a 22-year-old medical student at Boston University.
Back in the early 90s, Craig Newmark wanted to help people spread the word about local businesses and events in the San Francisco area. It started out as a simple email chain to friends, but the vastness of this word-of-digital mouth service grew larger and larger every day. Due to its popularity, Newmark created Craigslist in 1996. By the year 2000, Craigslist had expanded outside of California to all over the world. Craigslist can be used for an array of things. If you're looking for a job, housing, services, community information, or even to just chat on a discussion forum, you can do that all on Craigslist. Craig Newmark created the site for good use, but like with anything, there are people out there who will try to ruin that experience, whether it be to scam, steal, or even kill. Phillip Markoff was an individual who used Craigslist to take advantage of people. But before we get into his crimes, we need to take a few steps back and find out who Phillip Markoff was before all these events transpired. On February 12, 1986, Philip Haynes Markoff was born. Philip lived a relatively normal life in a small town outside of Syracuse, New York. His parents, Susan and Richard, would divorce when Philip and his brother Jonathan were young, and eventually his mother would remarry and have a daughter with her new husband. Despite this, Philip came from a family who loved him, and from all accounts, he was raised and treated right his entire life. Philip was also extremely intelligent. He was a member of the National Honor Society and numerous extracurricular activities throughout his school years. During this time in his life, those who knew him would describe him as a well-behaved young man. He had goals for his future, and he took those goals very seriously. Philip had dreams of becoming a doctor and worked hard as a pre-med student at the State University of New York in Albany. He would take and pass the Medical College Admission Test, or as it's more commonly known as the MCAT, and he would then enroll at Boston University School of Medicine. In 2005, while he was still a pre-med student, Philip would meet and fall in love with a woman named Megan McAllister. Megan hailed from New Jersey, and the pair would meet when they were both volunteering at the Albany Medical Center. After a few years of dating, the pair would become engaged, and they set their wedding date for August 14th, 2009. On the surface, Philip had a charmed life. He was well on his way to becoming a doctor, he was engaged to be married to a beautiful and intelligent woman, and he had his whole life ahead of him to do good. Unfortunately, Phillip went down a different path.
Right now, Phillip Markoff is inside the Boston Police Department, and he has an unsuspecting resume, a 22-year-old med student scheduled to be married this summer, but police say he is the Craigslist killer.
As stated previously, this story has to do with a charlatan, and that is exactly what Phillip Markoff was. Not only did the young medical student have a gambling issue, but he was also incredibly in debt. Higher education, especially in the United States, is expensive. By 2009, Phillip was already $130,000 in debt and counting. That's a lot of money for someone who is in their early 20s. Neither Phillip or Megan were currently working at the time. Phillip was a full-time med student and Megan was having difficulty finding work. She suffered from back issues and was also looking to enroll in medical school after their wedding. But no matter how many Craigslist postings she replied to or applications she submitted, Megan couldn't get any bites on a job. Despite their constant complaining about the lack of money they had, it appears they would go out quite a bit. You see, Phillip would use the money that was given to him for his student loans and living expenses to pay for everything. Even unnecessary things like trips to casinos, bars, and dinners out at restaurants. Phillip would hit up casinos with Megan a few times a month to try and win spending money. According to Megan, he would typically break even, and if he lost money, he would cash out. This is what she would witness, at least. Behind the scenes, Phillip was acting in ways that were unusual to how others would describe him. Unbeknownst to his fiancée, Phillip would use a private email, sexaddict5385@yahoo.com, to solicit sexual encounters with men and transgendered women. However, there have been no confirmation as to whether any of these relationships led to physical encounters, or if they were all strictly in the realm of cybersex. Either way, he kept this tidbit about himself private, though it would all be linked back to his IP address. Phillip would then use Craigslist to begin robbing women. On April 10, 2009, Phillip would lure Tricia Leffler to the Westin Hotel in Boston. He had found her masseuse ad on Craigslist and requested her services. The pair would meet up at the hotel, and once they entered the room, Phillip would pull a gun on Tricia. He would then tie her hands with plastic ties to a doorknob in the room. Also, to keep her from making noise, he would place tape over her mouth. After Tricia was bound, Phillip would then take about $800 in cash from her, as well as gift cards that had a few $100s on them, her debit card, and a pair of her underwear. After he robbed her, he left Tricia in the room and he left the hotel. Tricia would later state that she complied with everything Phillip said, and she believes that this is the only reason that she is still alive today. So after he left her room, Tricia would get herself loose from the ties Phillip had put her in. After the attack, Tricia would contact the police and file a report. She would even give a description of her attacker. While authorities were in the midst of looking for this assailant, Phillip would be targeting another victim. 4 days after his attack on Tricia, Phillip would contact Julissa Brisman. Julissa placed an ad on Craigslist similar to Tricia's. She too was looking for work giving massages. This time, they would set to meet at the Marriott in Boston. This encounter seemed to go differently. It appears as though when Julissa and Phillip were in the room, Phillip presumably attempted to rob her. Julissa seemed to resist, and this resulted in Phillip using the gun he had to beat her over the head. He would then shoot her 3 times, penetrating her chest, abdomen, and heart. Someone in a room close by would hear the sounds of someone screaming. When they went to see what was going on, they found Julissa laying near the doorway of her room. Julissa would be rushed to the Boston Medical Center, but she would not survive her injuries. 2 days after Phillip mercilessly killed Julissa Brisman, he would travel to Warwick, Rhode Island. He would respond to an ad placed by Cynthia Melton. The pair would meet up at the Warwick Holiday Inn Express at 11 p.m. When Phillip entered Cynthia's room, he would pull out his gun and tell her to lay face down on the ground. Just like with his previous victims, he would bound Cynthia's hands with plastic ties. He attempted to place a ball gag into Cynthia's mouth to keep her quiet, but he was unable to. She resisted him the best that she could. Cynthia would later state that she noticed that Phillip was shaking as the robbery continued. He seemed very nervous and on edge as he looked through Cynthia's belongings. He would tell her that he had no intentions of killing her, and that he just wanted her money. Cynthia's husband was at the hotel, and during the attack he would enter Cynthia's room. Phillip would point his gun at Cynthia's husband Keith, who would raise his hands and slowly back up away from Phillip. Keith would accidentally trip and fall over, giving Phillip the opportunity to flee the scene. Police would quickly figure out that all of these crimes were connected. The time frame in which they all occurred and the blatant MO pointed to one person. After Julissa's murder, investigators had been reviewing security footage of people going in and out of each hotel that had reported attacks. Investigators were able to obtain images of a man they believed to be the perpetrator of these crimes. Luckily for authorities, they were also able to access the correspondence that Julissa had with her last client. Investigators were able to trace the IP address attached to that email to an apartment in Quincy, Massachusetts. That apartment belonged to Phillip Markoff and Megan McAllister. Authorities noted the similarities of the surveillance photos and Phillip Markoff. After deciding they wanted to bring Phillip in for questioning, they pulled him and his fiancée Megan over in Walpole, Massachusetts, as they were on their way to Connecticut to spend the night at Foxwoods Casino, which was about 90 minutes away from their home. Phillip and his fiancée would be brought into the police station for questioning regarding incidences that had been occurring at local casinos and hotels. Phillip was immediately agitated with investigators and gave them attitude as they asked their questions. What you're about to hear shortly are snippets from Phillip Markoff's interrogation. In the beginning of their discussions, Phillip is read his rights by the detectives conducting the interview. Phillip immediately wants an attorney present, but doesn't seem to understand that he would need to bring in representation at this stage in the investigation. Authorities explain to him that they will only provide an attorney if, in fact, an individual is arrested, which at this time, Phillip was not.
Aye, there's a blank space. I've read and understand the above rights as explained to you by me. I'm going to print my name, Detective Harris. And I'm willing to make a statement at this time without a lawyer being present. Would you like to speak to us now relative to some questions we have to ask you?
Well, it depends what they're about. Maybe I should speak to a lawyer.
Well, it's up to yourself, and it's a decision you have to make.
Well, what's this about?
Well, it's about a series of incidents that have gone on, and we just have some questions. As you're well aware of, there's been some reports of some robberies and a homicide, and we've been following a ton of leads as a result of that stuff. And you're a person of interest at this point, and we'd like to speak to you relative to that.
Okay, maybe. Can you get me a lawyer now?
Can I get you a lawyer?
Yeah.
You have a right to get you a lawyer yourself. And,
well, I don't know. I don't know where to get a lawyer from.
Yeah, is that your decision that you'd rather have a lawyer than to speak with me?
I mean, yeah, I don't really know what this is about, but I probably should. I don't want to say something.
It's up to yourself. Is that your request that you want a lawyer?
Sure. I mean, can you get me one?
Well, just so we understand, I have a perfect understanding of what's going on. Would you like to have an attorney here today and then continue some questioning, or would you like to not to speak at all and get an attorney? Because, I mean, you can make a phone call, you can try to have an attorney here, and you can go through the proceedings with an attorney present if that's your wish.
I guess I'd feel more comfortable with an attorney present if you could provide me with somebody.
One of your next rights is you have a right to make a phone call. We'll let you make a phone call, and if you want to try to find an attorney and have an attorney respond here...
No, you can just have someone who does this.
We have an attorney that does this?
Or, who's...
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
I do know what you're trying to say. You want to consult with an attorney before we move forward, is that correct?
Sure.
All right.
Detective Kinney, for the record. Just so that it's clear, you're asking us to try to provide you an attorney. You don't have.
Yeah, I don't have a lawyer. I don't know where to get a lawyer.
Okay. And you absolutely don't want to talk to us unless you have an attorney before you talk to us. Because the thing of it is I want to be very frank with you. I'm sure you have some idea of what we're looking at here, right? You have some idea what we're talking about?
Not really.
Well, you live in the area and you've been watching the news?
I don't really watch the news.
Do you read the newspapers?
No.
Not at all?
No, people my age don't really watch.
Because you don't watch the news, all right. Well, the detective talked about it briefly, that there's a number of incidents that have happened in the area. Your physical description, and that you're a white male with light-colored hair, has triggered our interest in you to some certain extent. But as you can imagine, there's about probably 80,000 other people that are about your height, about your facial features, about your hair color.
Yeah.
you're a person of interest because of these things and some other things. We would like to talk to you about that, but we're not going to talk to you if you insist on having an attorney there.
What are the other things?
Well, until we get through this format, we can't talk to you about anything.
Okay, well.
But we have to make sure that your rights. I mean, we're going to be zealous in making sure that your rights are preserved.
All right.
That is our obligation to the law and our obligation to you.
So I would like. Can you provide me with an attorney?
We're not going to provide you an attorney. We'll allow you to make a phone call and you can inquire. Okay.
It says you'll provide me with one.
Well, that's a process, sir. As that says there. Like if in fact you ended up in the court,
if you were indigent,
and if the courts found you indigent, then they would provide you with an attorney. That's in a different proceeding. This right now, you're like number one. You're not under arrest, correct?
But you said I could have a lawyer for this.
Well, the form is you have a right to an attorney. Okay. We don't actually give people attorneys. You can hire an attorney to move forward. Or at some point, if you were arrested...
I don't think I can afford an attorney.
Well, I mean, that phone calls could be made to a company, the public defender's office, and maybe they could make one available to you. However, you're not the deciding factor of whether or not you could afford an attorney. The courts are. But the bottom line, as far as this interview goes, Phillip, so we're clear, is you have a right to have an attorney with you while you're being questioned, if you so choose, okay?
Okay.
Or you can shut down. You don't want to speak to us because you want to take advantage of one of your rights and get an attorney, and you can postpone this till another time. The way that works, if we're going to provide you with an attorney, we being the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, that means that there's a process in place. If you were arrested, brought before a court, and you tell the court that, hey, look, I can't afford an attorney and I want one, and it's at that point they'll either deem you indigent, where you absolutely, because of the information you provide them, cannot afford one, and they'll provide you with a public defender. However, if they find that you have the means, either with family or other areas, to afford an attorney, then they'll tell you to get an attorney before the next court date, to hire an attorney yourself. But right now, we can see what's going on. If you want an attorney, that means we shut down. Okay?
But I could stop at any time, right?
Well, that's another one of your rights. If you understand that, as we read, you can proceed, you can talk to us. It's your right. You have to waive it, though. You have to tell me that, hey, look, I understand my rights fully, and I'm willing to talk to you, and I can stop at any time also. That's one of your rights.
So do you want me to fill this out?
Yeah, fill it out. And is that your understanding, that you're willing to talk to me? You want to waive that?
Well, you said I can stop at any time.
You can stop at any time.
Well, I just want to hear what's going on from you. So we can start.
The detectives begin telling him what he is actually being questioned about after he agrees to speak with them.
As I alluded to early on about that, there's been a lot of stuff going on, and as a result of that stuff, there's been hundreds of tips coming in here. And if you haven't read the paper, you really don't have a clue as to what we're talking about.
No, I really don't read the paper or watch the news.
So in the last week or two, you haven't heard anything about some stuff that's been going on in and around Boston regarding Craigslist?
No, I really don't watch the news.
Okay, well, just let me give you a brief synopsis of what we're doing then, okay?
Okay.
There's been a series of incidents, robberies of young girls in and around the Boston area.
Okay.
And as a result with that, the Boston Police Department and other agencies have asked the public for some help. They actually printed some surveillance photographs of people that they thought might be involved in this case. And as a result of that, asking the press for some help, it generated an awful lot of phone calls. People are saying, geez, I think the guy who lives next door to me might be a person of interest. Mm-hmm. Somebody else is calling, I work in such and such a place, and this dude who comes in here every day, you know what it is, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we are following up each and every lead that comes across the phones. I can tell you as I sit here, in my limited capacity, there's a photograph in one of the surveillance photographs, or a couple of the surveillance photographs, there's a strong likeness and image to yourself, Phillip.
Okay.
One of the reasons why you are here.
The detective goes on to ask Phillip more about himself. They discuss the fact that he is a medical student and that he lives in Quincy with his fiancée Megan. After some chit-chat, the detective asks Phillip if he has been to any hotels recently.
Tell me this, have you ever been to some of the hotels downtown Boston in the past week or so?
Not in the past week.
Okay, before the past week, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks. You tell me when was
Well, my dad and his wife were in Boston, maybe in February, and they stayed at a hotel.
Okay, and what hotel was that?
I don't remember. It's one of the ones near Prudential Center.
Near the Prudential Center. Is that the last time, Philip, that you were at a hotel?
I believe.
All right. Could you have been there like recently and just don't recall it? Or?
I could have like walked through the lobby.
Okay. Do you have a memory of doing that recently?
I don't have a memory of it off the top of my head.
If you think for a second, is there a possibility that maybe you did do something like that?
Walk through the lobby?
Yeah.
Maybe, I don't remember.
What would cause you, as a medical student from BU, to walk through a lobby?
Well, the Prudential Center, isn't it connected to all the hotels? So
Yeah.
to go from like walk through the Prudential Center?
Yeah.
Don't you often walk through hotel lobbies?
Yeah. What hotel is connected to the Prudential Center? And I don't frequently.
I don't really know them that well.
Well, do you have what brings you to the Prudential Center, if you don't mind?
I've been there a handful of times.
Yeah. Is it just like coffee or shopping, or what brings you down there?
All those reasons.
Yeah, all of those. But no one hotel jumps out at you as far as.
Not really.
All right. You do have a specific memory of being in one in that area when your mom and dad were in town.
Yeah, they were in one.
Okay. And where were your parents from?
Syracuse, New York.
Syracuse. Okay. And how long have you been in the Boston area? How long? What year are you in at BU?
I'm finishing up my second year.
The second year. All right. And have you lived at that Quincy address since then?
Since I started, no, I lived in South Boston, and then I moved to Quincy.
Yeah. How does it feel to be wrapped up in this stuff? I mean, is this your first time being involved at this? And I know you said you worked at the youth court. What do you think about being dragged in here on it?
I don't know. I was trying to figure out what was going on.
Okay. And as you know, I mean, if you have some familiarization with the courts, especially it's something, it's an investigation. You know the unit you're in now. Did you see the sign when you walked in the door?
No.
It says the homicide unit, and I introduced myself as a homicide detective. So that tells you
Okay.
at least something that we're talking some serious stuff here, okay? And following tips. And ever since going back to the OJ case, the sensationalism of the OJ case, which causes the public to respond in following leads, we're kind of like, we're at, a point where people call stuff in and we follow up on it regardless of what it is, because in the courts, people will say, well, 45 phone calls come in. You followed up one or two of them. Why didn't you do them all? And I can tell you is that there's a strong likeliness to one of the photographs in the surveillance photos, such as yourself. So I was just maybe hoping that you had some explanation. Say, if I gave you a date of a couple of weeks ago, if you were to tell me there's a reason why you were there, and the person in the photograph was deemed to be you, then maybe you'd have a logical explanation for being in that area. But you don't seem to call to mind.
Well, I went out to eat at the Cheesecake Factory. That was maybe a couple weeks ago.
Which is right there. Do you remember the day that might have been? Although
I don't remember the day.
And I understand, because sometimes I don't even know that what day of the week it is, what date it is now. But as far as the going out to a restaurant, people might say, well, I like it there on Wednesday nights because they have a good special. Do you happen to remember?
No, I don't go out to eat much. I went out with Megan and a couple of friends. And we go
so,
shopping there sometimes at the Prudential Center.
All right. When you say was that a couple of weeks ago?
I don't remember when it was.
During the interrogation, they bring up the Westin Hotel and ask Phillip, was he there in the last few weeks?
Was there any reason or anything at all to cause you to have been there in the last couple of weeks?
I mean, maybe if I was walking through it.
Yeah. Well, can you call something to mind, Philip? What would have brought you in there to walk through it? I mean,
I'm not sure.
You're going to place the Westin. Can you picture the Westin now? Can you picture where it is? Strategically.
It's been like it's next to the Prudential Center, isn't it?
Yes. Well, if you're looking at the Prudential Center and the Cheesecake, say if you walked up Huntington Ave on the outside, the Cheesecake is on the left-hand side, and then moving forward straight inbound, the Westin would be up on your right-hand side. Can you picture it?
I guess. It sounds familiar.
Yeah.
I think it connects to the Prudential Center.
Yeah, well,
because I think when my brother was staying there, I walked back and forth. I think there's a connection.
Over the footbridge?
I guess.
Yeah.
I don't really remember.
Yeah, but you have no clear memory of being there in the last couple of weeks.
I don't remember. No clear memory.
All right. Now, there's another hotel down, moving closer to the Cheesecake Factory. The Marriott.
Okay.
Can you picture that at all?
Yeah, I've eaten at the bar there.
Oh, the bar? What's the name of that place?
It's a sports bar.
Okay.
I watched a Red Sox playoff game with Yaman and Pizza.
A playoff game. So last year, was that the last time you were there?
At the bar?
Yeah.
I think so. I'm not sure.
Okay. I mean, Could you have been there in the last week or two?
It's possible. I don't remember. I don't think I wasn't at Champions. I think it was Champions.
And Champions, the name of the sports bar?
Yeah.
I mean, you were pretty sharp.
I went there with it a couple of times.
You're a pretty sharp kid, unless it's true the way it is on TV with medical students and stuff. You just flat out. I mean, it's only been a week or two. You don't have a memory of being there in the last week or so?
And no, I haven't really done anything last week.
Phillip is holding strong that he has no recollection of being at the hotels that the detective is asking him about. Actually, he doesn't seem to have any memory of what he's been up to the last few weeks.
I don't really remember what I was doing.
16th? Any
I don't remember
hotels, bars?
Where?
Anywhere. I mean, I'm just trying to help you remember.
I don't really.
Doesn't help?
No, I don't think I was that.
15th, 14th, a couple of weeks, nothing?
All the dates.
No, and again, I can understand, and for the most part, we have such hectic lifestyles, and I can only imagine what yours is like as a medical student with remembering from one day to the next. But, I mean, somebody who doesn't frequent hotels, only when parents or families in and around town, I would think that maybe you'd remember that. You'd have a reason to remember it, you know? Because I tell you something, the photographs are pretty clear as to why people would call suggesting, to take a look at you. But you don't have any memory of being there in any of these places in the last couple of weeks. Is that true, or are you saying it could be possible?
I don't really remember, to be honest. I mean, I might have been there when I was at the Cheesecake Factory or something. I don't remember.
Yeah. Well, you wouldn't have gone over there and got a room afterwards, right? You're a college student, and it sounds like your money is lacking, so you wouldn't have gone over to get a room with Megan, correct?
When? What night?
Any night in the last couple of weeks.
Well, we're going to get a room at Foxwoods tonight.
Oh, you were going to Foxwoods?
Yeah, I booked a room tonight. Yeah.
Okay, you booked a room down there?
Yeah.
At what hotel? Do you remember?
Foxwoods Hotel.
Okay.
MGM.
That's the name of it?
It's the MGM Grand.
Okay. Do you gamble?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
So I get discounts in hotel rooms.
Oh, not bad. Not bad.
The detective then asks Phillip what he's thinking about during this questioning process.
What goes through your mind as I'm asking all these questions? I know you're a pretty bright kid. What goes through your mind? I know you said that you understand what's happening, you're trying to figure out what's going on. What's going through your mind? Do you have an understanding of what this is all about?
Yeah, I understand what you're telling me.
Do you understand?
Yeah, I think I understand.
And how we're following up on stuff. And in this homicide business and in these serious investigations, robbery, 99% of the time, investigators, we spend trying to prove who did not commit the crime as opposed to who did do the crime. You follow me?
Mm-hmm.
And that's where we spend an awful lot of our work. We have to cross our T's and dot our I's. And especially in a case like this where you reach out to the public and ask for help, it makes things a lot more tedious for us. And as you sit there, and somebody who's a person of interest because of the images and the likenesses on the surveillance footages, it kind of makes our job that much more difficult, And we appreciate your cooperation. But it's serious business. It's serious business. And I can tell you this, and as I've said homicide a couple of times, clearly you must think that it involves a murder. I've also mentioned the word robbery, and it involves a robbery. And sometimes, Phillip, when things happen, it's a pretty ugly situation. We don't mean them to happen. They may happen accidentally. But as kids, when we do something stupid or we start to get on a road we shouldn't, we get some advice that, the time if some shit happens and it's ugly, it only makes things worse if you lie about it. So if you're afforded an opportunity to just be truthful and attempt to explain your side of the story, so to speak, it just makes things a lot easier, moving forward. Especially when you have complicated situations. When there's lies attached to it, it just kind of makes things really, that much more complicated. And it's difficult. It's difficult to rationalize, why things happened. And again, that's why it's kind of like for me to try and ask you to remember if you're in a hotel. Myself now in a limited capacity and, so much money. If I was at a hotel, that'd be something that, yeah, sure, I remember that. I was down at the Marriott just 3 nights ago. I was with a hot-looking girl. We had a couple of drinks, and I was trying to get a room or something. I mean, those are memories that we'd always have. But to you, I mean, if you're going to Foxwoods all the time, maybe that's the explanation for why you can't call it to mind for not being there. But then again, if you're willing to work with me and try to figure out if you were there, that might explain why we're sitting here today. But if you sit there and you just have positively no memory of being there, it just doesn't help things, you know.
Well, I said I had no specific memory. I might have walked through there.
Yeah, but that's what I mean.
I walk through there often. I don't know specifically though.
So is there a possibility that you walked through there in the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I said that.
At this point in the conversation, the detectives bring up Craigslist and ask Phillip if he uses the site for anything, and also to list all of his email addresses that he has used. The conversation then turns back to Craigslist, and if you listen closely, you can tell by the sound of his voice that Phillip is growing more and more impatient during this interview.
Let's talk about Craigslist. When was the last time you were on Craigslist?
I do not remember.
You do not remember. I mean, again, can we do that?
Was I on it 2 weeks ago, a month ago? I don't remember.
Could you have been? I mean, that's the next question.
I guess, yeah.
You know, a lot of times, Phillip, and you got to bear with me, and it might sound stupid, but, you know, a lot of times we know the answers to the questions, but it's affording you an opportunity to, you know, be completely forthright with me, and just in the interest of helping to get this done.
Okay.
Helping to clear your name, or to, you know, as I said, we spend an awful lot of time trying to prove you did not commit the crime, you know? So if you could work with me a little bit.
I'm trying to.
I know you are. So let me ask you that once. When do you think was the last time you may have?
I don't know.
All right. You have no idea.
I don't know.
Does that indicate that it's been that long that you just don't have a memory of it, or?
I'm not sure what that indicates.
Okay. So if I was asked you, were you on it this morning? That would be a no.
I was not on it this morning.
All right, what about yesterday?
I don't know. I don't remember.
Okay. All right. So, as far as that goes, now, have you had any problems that, you know, with some females lately in any situation?
No.
Part of this investigation involves some women who have been assaulted, and that's what caused the police to respond. That's what caused us to, you know, post some photographs looking for help, because it all started in some rooms.
The detective asks if there is anything Phillip can tell them to help them in their investigation.
Is there anything that you can tell us that might help us in what I'm asking you about?
I don't think so.
And again, we're kind of at a loss here, because you have absolutely no clue, according to you, about what's been going on in and around the city of Boston regarding women who've been assaulted, correct? No clue.
Yeah, I haven't been.
No clue. Never seen anything in the paper?
No, that's true.
That's true.
Correct.
Never seen anything in the paper, never seen anything on the news in the last couple of
No, I
days?
really don't watch the
Your
news.
girlfriend would not have brought it to your attention. Jeez, look at this. I just saw, you know.
No, I
nothing.
don't really watch the local news.
So no conversations with anybody in your circle of travel
No.
that may have mentioned as to what's going on here, right? What about outside the city of Boston? Any hotels other than Foxwoods that you may have visited lately?
No, other than Foxwoods.
No, other than Foxwoods. Have you been in Rhode Island at all lately?
Well, I go through Rhode Island to get to Foxwoods.
Okay, do you stop? Have you stopped going through Rhode Island at a hotel at all?
Maybe to get gas.
Okay, at a hotel?
At a hotel?
Yeah.
We wouldn't get gas at a hotel.
Well, that's what I asked. Have you stopped
I don't think so.
on the way through? You don't think so? You don't think you're at a hotel in Rhode Island?
I don't think so.
Okay, you seem to be getting a little frustrated.
Yeah,
with me.
because you keep asking me the same question.
Well, I moved on from the Westin, and I moved on from the Marriott, and now I'm in the state of Rhode Island. You say that you go to Foxwoods all the time, and I'm just asking if maybe you had stopped into a hotel in Rhode Island.
Maybe, I don't know.
Okay. What do you think? What do you think? Where do you think I'm going with all this?
I don't know.
What are your thoughts? Talk to me for a minute. Instead of answering all the questions, tell me what your thoughts are. Tell me what you feel right now, because you seem to be getting a little frustrated with me. And I can understand where you're coming from. But Phil, let me say this to you, okay? If in fact you are the guy in the photographs, that's one thing. Because you could just be simply that guy passing through the hotel. passing through the lobby, somebody that's out with your girlfriend at the Cheesecake Factory, walking through, going to a parking lot to get in your car to go home. It could be that simple. Or it also could be the guy who just left a hotel room where something went awry, and you're leaving there, and you are a suspect who has a story to be told. Whatever happened in the hotel room, that speaks to a certain set of facts. If you happen to be the guy that's leaving that hotel room and is picked up on surveillance cameras, you may have another piece of that story. And you could just throw that on the table right now, and that may explain things. Or you could be, as we said, just simply that guy passing through. But is it more than a coincidence if you're that guy who just happened to pass through the Westin Hotel? And again, maybe that same guy who passes through the Marriott, the same guy who maybe passes through a hotel in Warwick? It could be. It could be, because it seems that maybe these are things you do. But it could also be more than that. And it could be something that, who knows what happens. Maybe some girls are pissed at you. Maybe whatever's going on, whatever your thing is, maybe, who knows? Who knows? Unless you throw it out there. If that's you, the guy that's actually been in some of those rooms with some of these females, and maybe they, are trying to set you up or something. Who knows? Unless you tell us. I clearly don't know, because I wasn't there. But if you say you're simply the guy that may have passed through, you don't even have a clear memory to be able to tell me that. You do seem to frequent Foxwoods because you seem to go down there a lot, according to yourself, right? Is there any other reason other than just maybe I passed through? Do you have a thing, do you hook up with girls that you meet and you just don't want Megan to know about it, which is perfectly understandable. Over the years, a lot of times, guys sitting there, they want to tell a story, but they don't want to jeopardize relationships. They don't want to ruin an engagement. They don't want to end up in divorce court because they have these things for, they have a girlfriend on the side or something. So that may prevent them from being completely honest. And something like that, that's like a barrier in this business. If it's that simple, and that's what throws me off, then trust me, the thing to do is just to be honest and throw it out there and explain why this is going on. Explain why you're sitting here in the homicide unit, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. There's an explanation for everything, Things happen for a reason, Philip. We can't have back what happened, but we can make it right. And how do we make it right? Just by being honest. Just by being honest. When we start dancing around the truth, that's why things get all kind of discombobulated. And you kind of look at me, you get frustrated, hey, I answered that already. And that's what happens when you're dancing around the truth. I think you know that you may have been in some of these places. I think you know that. But you're just not clear as to how you want to tell me. And the best thing to do when the shit hits the fan, as I said earlier also, is just to man up. Look, this is what happened, but this is why it happened. It's not who I am. I didn't do those things. This is what actually happened. This is my story. I'm not a stupid little shit. I know what happened, and I know why it happened. And I can make it right by just being honest. That honesty is the key to, just move forward, and it opens up all those different doors when you're honest with yourself. And it actually, the honesty is what explains our behavior. Without honesty, one-sided stories can be pretty ugly. Can be real ugly. Because all we have is the evidence at the scene. And that scene can be ugly and can speak to ugliness without this answer over here. You follow me? Again, you just nod, and the tape doesn't pick that up. I'm sorry.
Sure, I'm following you.
You're following me. You understand what I'm saying? I mean,
Yes,
left to our
I
own,
understand.
if we have an incident in the Westin Hotel, and some girl is there and she's irate and she's pissed because of this and because of that, that's her version. And the same if you move on to the next girl, into the next girl. But there was somebody else that was there, some person that left, some person that's walking through the lobby afterwards, who has a story to be told.
Finally, Phillip is asked again what his involvement is in the slew of assaults and robberies that have taken place at various hotels. His frustration grows, and he inevitably asks for an attorney.
It's not easy, Phillip, and things happen, stuff happens, but we can make it right. Fall back to when we're, brought up. Little lies turn into big lies, and big lies turns into, big bags of shit, so to speak, But if we step up, speak from the heart, hey, okay, listen, nobody ever meant for things to go the way they went, but this is what happened. Maybe it was an accident. Maybe you were provoked, or maybe, things got ugly and you were a victim here at some point. But who knows unless you speak up, Phillip? Who knows? Who will ever know? Right now we're left with one side of the table, one set of facts. I'm just asking you, Phillip, if you can find it in yourself to man up and step up. If that's you, that's beyond that casual stroll through the hotel, to speak to it, to speak to what might have happened, what might have went wrong. Because it's happening. It's happening. And I think you deserve it to yourself just to step up and lay it on the table. It is what it is. There's no making it right. But we can end it with the truth. And explain, put a justification to why it happened. I'm going to ask you, Phillip, the first incident that I spoke to in the Westin Hotel, a girl was robbed. Did you have anything to do with that?
No.
Phillip?
Well, I just answered you.
There was a girl in a hotel room that was tied up and robbed in the Westin. That's her story. Were you in that room that night?
I didn't tie up and rob anyone.
You didn't tie up and rob anybody. Could you have been in that room and maybe somebody else did?
No.
No? Do you have an understanding of what it is I'm talking about to you when I'm asking you just to step up and
I'm listening to what you're saying. It doesn't really apply to me.
No? Okay. And
you're just telling me a story.
I'm telling you a story.
I don't have anything to add to it.
Okay, well, I'm telling you a story as if that right now in this story, your role in this story is you're the casual stroller. Maybe.
Well, I'm not in this story. I don't know.
Well, you are in the sense that you're sitting here as the story unfolded prior to your arriving here. Your role in the story is that of maybe somebody who passed through the hotel lobby. That's your role, correct? That's maybe.
I don't know how to answer that.
Yeah, and it is. And again, it's only a scenario that I'm applying to this story as it's unfolding here. And I'm asking that if you're the guy that was more than the casual stroller, that may have been up in the room somehow, some way, some shape or form, got enticed into a room and something got ugly, maybe you have an explanation as to what might have happened up there.
I don't really know what you're talking about. And this is why I wish I had a lawyer here. I could just be nodding along and agreeing to something that you're saying.
And that's fine.
I don't really mean that didn't happen.
And again, Phillip, you're alluding to a lawyer, and we need to, expound upon that. If you want a lawyer, we are stopping this interview right now because that's one of your rights, okay? That's a right that you have. If you are that unsure of proceeding without
well, the way you're phrasing things, it seems like I could just be nodding or saying yes, and the way you're questioning me, I could be agreeing to anything by saying yes or no. I don't really.
Well,
that's why I wish someone was here to tell me that by nodding my head or something, I'm agreeing to something you're saying.
No, and that's fine. And the bottom
that's
line,
why I wish I had one. I don't really know who to call for a lawyer.
Well, that's fine. You know what? We're going to stop this interview because you want an attorney. That's your choice if you want an attorney. Correct?
Yes, if you're just going to keep asking me the same questions over and over.
Okay, and again, it's just so you're clear, as far as you're nodding and agreeing to anything, you know what's going on. You're not agreeing or nodding to anything that you don't want to. You've understood the question so far. You've alluded to having an attorney present. So we're going to give you that, okay?
In a separate room, Megan, Phillip's fiancée, was questioned. During her interview, she is asked basic questions about Phillip and their life together. Megan would typically spend a week or two at home in New Jersey, but the other time she lived with Phillip in the apartment in Quincy. The detective would ask a lot of questions about their financial situation. They would learn that Megan was having difficulty finding part-time work. She would turn to services like Craigslist to find a job, but she had little luck. So due to the lack of income, Phillip would take care of their finances with loans he took out for school. Eventually, the conversation turns as to why Megan and Phillip are being questioned.
Can I ask what this is about yet or no?
Sure.
Okay.
We're investigating some activity from a computer in your house for online massage services.
Online massage services?
Yes. Someone's accessed the computer in your home.
There have been calls asking, you know how I said about the nail salon?
Mm-hmm.
There have been calls from that guy saying, you know, massage, like, can I schedule a massage and nail service? We've gotten calls like that.
That's the question that I asked you. Were any of the calls explicit, either, threatening in nature?
These were just like 3 or 4 times. No, just like, oh, can I schedule a massage? Something like that.
Megan believes that they may be referring to her internet searches looking for spas and salons. She would state during her interview that she has a bad back, so much so that it has affected her ability to work certain jobs, and she frequently gets massages. But the detective was referring to soliciting services via Craigslist. Megan would talk about how their home phone would get a lot of prank calls or people calling and asking about services, but Phillip would brush them off and eventually tell her not to answer them anymore. Later in the interview, detectives would show Megan a photograph and ask her if she recognizes the person in the picture.
And what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask you to look at the picture and see if you recognize the individual in the picture.
Where is this?
I'm not asking where it is. I'm asking if you recognize the individual in the picture.
That looks like Phil.
That looks like Phil?
Yes.
Okay. I'm going to ask you to look at another picture. Who is that?
I cannot tell.
Okay. Does it look like anyone you recognize?
It could look like a lot of people I recognize. That may be Phil, may not. I mean, that guy looks heavier than Phil.
Okay. And just looking at some...
Those aren't his shoes either.
Okay. How about the jacket? Phil owned a leather jacket?
Yeah.
Was that? Pardon?
Yeah.
Okay. Have you seen Phil with that leather jacket on recently?
He wears it.
Okay. And when you look at that picture there, the first one, you said it looks like Phil. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can we just note which ones and which times?
Yeah.
Which photos?
We're going to look at the first one that you said looks like Phil is a photo that is listed as
Camera 264.
Camera 264. It has a date on it of 4/14/09 at 10:06. It looks like 44. Is that fair to say? It's got a little green dot and it's encased in a
Sheet protector.
sheet protector. Correct?
Mm-hmm.
The second photo that I had you look at is a photo of, the best way to identify it is it has a sign in it that says, it looks like it says Haru, H-A-R-U, correct? The person getting on an escalator, and you said that's the one that looks like a lot of people, is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
And the last photo that I've asked you to look at is camera 264, 4/14/09, and it looks like it says 10:06:45 p.m., correct? And you stated that looks like Phil.
When was the 14th? What day was that? Was that last week?
That was
Today.
last week on Tuesday.
Tuesday night. So you believe that person in his photo number 1 looks just like Phil, is that correct? And you can take it out of the sheet protector if the glare bothers you.
It looks similar,
Okay.
but he does not have those shoes,
Okay.
and that guy looks heavier.
Okay. But he
And
doesn't
that
have that jacket.
he has a similar leather jacket. He does have a leather jacket,
Okay.
but those aren't his shoes.
Okay. And can you tell what kind of shoes those are in the photo?
They just look like big black I don't know. They don't look like shoes he has.
Okay.
I know, all the shoes. He wears New Balance sneakers 99% of the time.
Does he own a pair of shoes like that he just doesn't wear?
Not that I know of.
Not that you know of?
No.
Okay.
Can I ask you where that was, though?
Yeah, we'll get to that. Can I just ask you to look at one other photo? This is a photo outside. It's camera 222 outside of a T station. Does that individual look familiar to you?
Looks a little bit like him.
Okay.
Not exactly, no.
Okay.
He looks heavier.
Okay. And is it, if the photo was more clear, like this is obviously a photo that's taken off some type of a digital image.
Mm-hmm.
If the photo was clearer, do you think that might help you?
No.
It wouldn't help you.
No. I mean, that looks heavier than Phil, so I don't know.
And I just have one more I'm going to ask you to look at. This one is dated 4/14/09 at 10:04. It says camera 12. And I just ask you to look at that photo.
You looked at the photo, I noticed, and you kind of made a little face behind the term you said.
Yeah, well, the hair looks different, so I don't know. Where was that again, did you say? At a T station?
Well, the last one was at a T station.
No, the last one was not at a T station.
No, the last one was inside the lobby of a hotel.
Oh, okay. The Marriott?
Yes. So
Which Marriott was that?
Marriott in Boston.
Oh, okay.
Copley Square. Had you seen any of these
Marriott
photos? Have you been watching the news the last couple of days at all?
No.
Have you read any of the Boston newspapers?
No, because I've been in New Jersey, so
You've been back since
the guy, my mom actually told me there's a guy, going around to hotels.
Right.
Right.
So what I'm asking you is we're following the lead,
Mm-hmm.
from the IP address in your apartment,
Mm-hmm.
okay, that made a date with an individual at a hotel, and then the first photo I showed you is an individual at that hotel that showed up at that time that the date was made, and you told me that it looks like Phil. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
If I showed you that picture on a digital image that was somewhat more clear, would that help you?
It might.
Okay. Would you be willing to look at that on a computer
Sure.
if I showed you on a digital image? Okay.
I mean, so what does this massage therapist have to do with the guy killing people, killing the women?
Well, there hasn't been women killed, okay? There's only one person killed.
And it was a massage therapist, you said?
Or
no?
No, we didn't say that.
I didn't say that.
Oh.
When I asked you, the records, Lieutenant Murder, I had asked you about you told me that you had got some prank calls into your apartment. I asked you if any of those calls were either threatening or sexual or anything else in nature, and you said that they were none like that. That there was a person that appeared to be mentally unstable.
Right.
Correct? And then I asked you if there had been any calls relative to massage or anything like that. You said, well, there were a couple of calls that people started asking for massage, which, is kind of a strange call to get at one's house.
Yeah. And that and the nail thing.
The nail thing.
Yeah.
Okay. And you asked us basically why you're here. We told you that
an email
was sent from an IP address in your apartment, okay, to set up an appointment with a masseuse at a local hotel. And the time frame of that appointment coincides with these surveillance photos of the individual.
Okay, and who's the masseuse?
That's something that we'll get to the bottom. We're trying to get to the bottom of.
Okay.
Okay, but at this point, we showed you some surveillance photos, and you believe it looks like Phil in the photo.
Next, the detectives and Megan would discuss the type of shoes and clothes that Phillip owned in more detail. Megan seems to believe she knows Phillip very well. When pressed, she tells them that she speaks to him at least 2 times a day. She also notes that he doesn't own a gun and that the person they are showing her in these photos, well, some of them just don't look like Phillip to her. Little does she know that this is her fiancé in all of the surveillance photos. Megan, at this point in the interview, begins to get nervous. She wants to know more about why she is there.
Have you ever seen Phil with a firearm?
No.
Never.
Never.
And if there was a firearm in your house, would you be aware of it?
I would.
And he said you monitor his shoes. Do you go through any of his other stuff to see?
Yes, he's very open about everything.
Right.
So he doesn't care if I'm, searching the apartment for stuff. So I know of everything that's going on.
How about the car? Would you be familiar with what's in the car and the trunk of the car?
With what's in his car?
Yes.
Yeah. Because when he picked me up from the train station, put my luggage in it. And today, when we were going, he put our luggage in it. I don't think there's much in there except for our luggage right now.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Just one thing.
Do you think this is a guy that's been in the hotels, or
that's why we're here.
Is there like a million people that this could be? Because this is very worrisome,
I can understand your concern. I think one of the things that's most worrisome for us is that an online email was initiated from an IP address in your apartment.
Mm-hmm.
The individual that we believe that showed up to complete that online massage or date is the individual in the picture. And the first picture you looked at, you thought he looked quite similar to Phil.
Okay, and then...
Okay. So for us...
But does this have to do with the masseuse?
Yes.
Is that what you're saying? Oh,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've been with Phil for a couple of years now? And you're engaged?
Yes.
And you love him?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Would you try to protect him if he did something wrong? Would you lie for him?
I would not lie for him if he did something like this. No, I wouldn't.
Something like what?
Like what you're telling me? If he's out killing people?
I don't think we ever actually said that.
I don't know what happened to the masseuse. Can you tell me what happened to the masseuse?
In one of the instances, they've been robbed. In another instance, they've been killed.
Okay. I would never, ever, ever think he would ever do something like that, ever.
Okay.
That's being honest. He doesn't get angry often. He's not an angry person. He's a medical student,
And sometimes things happen where, the intention is not to harm anybody. The intention is for financial gain, and sometimes other things happen where,
No, he complains about money all the time, that, we have no money. So, he's not going to rob somebody. That's not how he's going to go about getting money. He'll go to the casino and try to win money. He's not going to rob somebody.
Does he win a lot?
Sometimes.
Does he lose sometimes?
He does lose sometimes. If he loses, we go home. If he keeps winning, then...
Okay. And the way casinos usually work is the odds are in their favor. They usually win more often than the player does, correct?
Right. He does, if he wins, he doesn't win that much, but...
No, but if you ever had any... Sorry, Dan.
If you would have to characterize how he plays, does he beat the casino most of the time? No,
he breaks even. He breaks even usually. He'll win more than most people, I think. But
you mentioned his cell phone and some of the bills that you have. Do you pay your own cell phone, or does he pay that as well?
My parents do.
Your parents do. Mm-hmm. How about his?
His parents do.
Okay. And at any time has any of your services been cut off? Where you had any
Yeah. When I was home last, about a month ago, the BlackBerry he pays for internet service on it. He wasn't getting internet service on it, so he went to Verizon, and I guess they fixed it. I don't know if they completely fixed it. I think but for like a month or two, he wasn't getting internet service on the BlackBerry.
At any time, have you used any type of, phone cards or phones that you just 5 minutes for, what do they call them, like the minute phones at any of these, drugstores or anything like that? Have you ever seen any of those around the house?
Nope.
Was there ever a time when his BlackBerry was completely out of service?
No, just like I said, when I was home last month, he was having these problems where he wasn't getting the emails. He paid for the internet service on the BlackBerry, and he wasn't getting it. So he went to Verizon twice. I think Verizon fixed it. They said if it keeps doing this, come back and they'll send him a new phone. So I don't know what happened because that's when I went home. So.
Megan then asks, should she be afraid to leave the police station with Phillip when and if Phillip is released?
I have no further questions.
No further questions, no.
Would you be willing to, if we do have some other questions, to come back in for an interview?
Sure.
Okay, great.
I mean, is there any reason for me to be, scared to go home with this person? Might be outside?
At this time, we're going to make some decisions. We're going to actually, we don't know what's going on outside this room, so we're going to...
I just...
Do you have any reason to fear him?
No, not at all. But I'm just... You're worrying me.
Well, I can see this is a very serious business, and, we don't mean to worry you. We don't mean to alarm you in any way. This is pretty serious, and, that's what we do. We investigate homicides.
Right. I mean, are there other people that were at this hotel that could have done this? So
that's why we have an ongoing active investigation.
Okay.
And
I'm just wondering if he's one of two or one of 30.
Well, all I know is just following an investigation logically the way that we do. An online internet date, so to speak, or appointment was made from a computer in your apartment at the same time that an individual that resembles your fiancé shows up at the hotel where the crime occurred. Okay, it was at the hotel where the crime occurred.
Phillip's surviving victims would be brought in and asked to look at lineup photos. Without a doubt or hesitation, these women picked Phillip Markoff's picture out as the man who attacked them. At this point, police would arrest and charge Phillip Markoff with robbery and murder. When they would take pictures at his booking, they would note that there was blood on Phillip's loafers. That blood would turn out to be Julissa Brisman's. When authorities would search Markoff's apartment, they would find the gun that he used to rob women in a hollowed-out Gray's Anatomy of Human Body textbook. They would also find items belonging to victims hidden in his apartment, as well as a bag of plastic zip ties. Investigators knew without a shred of doubt that they had their man, and they stopped him before he harmed anyone else. During his arraignment at the end of April of 2009, Phillip would plead not guilty to his charges. A few days later after his arraignment, Phillip would attempt to commit suicide. He was placed on suicide watch for a time, but eventually believed to not pose a threat to himself after a while. Phillip would tell his family to just forget about him when they would visit him. According to his family, Phillip seemed depressed. However, it is unclear if this was due to the fact that he actually felt remorse for his actions or if he was just upset that he had been caught. In the beginning, Megan would stand by Phillip and his family. She truly didn't believe that he was capable of the things that he was accused of. However, as the evidence mounted and it looked more and more likely as though he was guilty, Megan had to make a decision. In 2009, she would decide that it would be in both of their best interests to end their relationship, and that she didn't plan on seeing him for a long time after this visit, if ever again. The following day after this conversation, Phillip would attempt suicide for a second time. On August 15th, 2010, what would have been the day after his first wedding anniversary, Phillip Markoff would commit suicide in his jail cell. Over the course of his incarceration waiting for trial, Phillip would fashion a knife made from a pen and a piece of metal. He would also gather toilet paper and plastic trash bags. When he knew no one would check on him for some time, Phillip would slash his ankles, neck, and legs deep enough to hit his arteries. He would wrap his wounds in the plastic bags, most likely to contain the blood so that he would not be caught right away. He would then swallow a wad of toilet paper before placing a plastic bag over his head, and then additionally wrapping gauze around the bag to suffocate himself. When the guards noticed Phillip hadn't moved in a while, they went in to check on him. When they lifted the blankets off of him, it is said that he was completely covered in blood. On the wall of his cell, he wrote Megan's name.
Markoff died behind bars Sunday morning after an apparent suicide. The 24-year-old former Boston University medical student reportedly was found in his cell with a bag over his head and had cut a major artery while awaiting trial for the murder of Julissa Brisman, a woman prosecutors say he met through the erotic services section of Craigslist.
Phillip Markoff's suicide robbed his victims and his victims' family of closure and possibly answers as to why he committed these crimes. Phillip Markoff seemed to only care about his own needs and interests from the start of this story until the very end, while putting on the mask that he wanted to help people and that he was a good person. None of that proved to be true. He was a true charlatan. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Apex and the Abyss. If you would like to reach out to the show, please feel free to write an email to apexandabyss@gmail.com. You can also find the show on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook if you prefer to communicate that way. You can also submit episode suggestions as well as find links to everything mentioned above in the show notes and at apexandabyss.com, as well as a link to another show I co-host called Monster Madness. If you would like to support the show, you can do that in many ways. You can head on over to Apple Podcasts and submit a rating and review. This costs you nothing but a few moments of your time, and it is greatly appreciated. You can also become a Patreon at patreon.com or purchase show merchandise at tpublic.com. All the links will be provided in the show notes. Again, thank you so much for listening to the show and for your support in telling these stories. Until next time.